Some of these DFW cities are seeing home prices climb fast right now, but homes are also sitting a little bit longer at the same time. So, what's actually happening in the market? Are buyers finally gaining leverage? Is inventory starting to shift? And why are Mansfield, Arlington, and Midlothian all telling completely different stories right now? Hello, hello, hello. I'm Stephanie Deeds, broker and owner of Point Realty, and your local expert here in DFW. Welcome back to another monthly market update here on South of Cowtown with the Deeds, where we break down what's really happening in the North Texas real estate market so you can make smarter decisions, whether you're buying, selling, investing, or just keeping an eye on your neighborhood. And make sure you stay till the end because I'm also going to talk about how buyers and sellers should actually be navigating the market right now, because the strategy today looks very different than it did even a year ago. All right, let's dive into the numbers. And let's be honest, they are not up here. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. Okay, let's dive into average sales price year over year. I think many of you will be thrilled to know that in Mansfield, those numbers actually increased pretty significantly. We went from 450 up to a little bit over 500,000. So for us being in what we've kind of considered a declining market to a certain extent, seeing the numbers recover in Mansfield, I think feels a little better to all of us. In Arlington, we actually went from the 365 range to a little bit over 370. Burleson went from 390 to 420. Midlothian actually stayed pretty static, right around 512. Fort Worth went from 390 to 408. Grand Prairie did have a bit of a decrease, and actually Dallas went from 687 to over $750,000. Now, here's what I think is happening. I think that when we saw inventory jump up, buyers got nervous, interest rates were down, interest rates were up. We saw sort of this decline in the market happening. We might be seeing a little bit of a recovery. I don't know. It really depends on where you are. That's the thing that's nuts about this market. Some houses are selling in 5 days and they're getting exactly what they're asking for them. And some houses are taking 6 months to sell, and we're having to do a whole lot of negotiations with buyers who have lots of leverage. So it really just depends on where you are, but this is positive news. It's showing increasing sales price, which means hopefully we're starting to see a little bit of a recovery in what I wouldn't even say was a hugely declining market. It was just a little bit soft. We are seeing less inventory, shockingly. We thought that we were seeing more inventory, and we did for a minute, but in Mansfield at this time last year, we had 384 homes for sale, and right now we only have 298. That's a pretty big drop. And that actually might be part of the reason that you're seeing prices recover a little bit. There's not quite as much available. There's still a lot of inventory. Don't get me wrong. The 300 homes that we do have for sale, that's a lot of inventory for Mansfield, but it's not quite as much as what we had last year. And we're seeing the same thing over across the board. Arlington dropped from 858 to 813, Burleson from 323 to 280, Midlothian from 416 to 350. So we are seeing a little bit of a declining inventory, which is very interesting. The number of closed sales, we're seeing either stay steady or increase a little bit. Mansfield, we went from 102 sales to 97. So we did drop a little bit, but not a ton. But then in Burleson, last year at this time, there was only 87 closed home sales, and this year there was 109. So there's a little bit of an increase there. Also increasing, which people don't want to hear, is days on market. Okay, so at this time last year in Mansfield, the days on market was still sitting at 45, which was a really good number. We're at 70 right now for our average days on market in Mansfield, which is not terrible. It's not awesome, but it's not terrible. I guess one of the headlines on this would be Midlothian saw a pretty big reduction from 127 days on market to 77. Now, I have a theory about that. I think that 127 was a little bit inflated based on a lot of the builder listings. A lot of builders will list a property when it's just had a foundation poured, and you've got, people can't even walk through it because it hasn't even been framed yet, but it's already collecting days on market when it's listed. And they typically sell much closer to when they're completed. So that may be part of that. But overall, I think that this report has really good news in it. Even though days on market is increasing a little bit in certain places, it's really stayed pretty steady. It's not huge. The number of closed sales is still is still doing fine. We're not seeing like a huge reduction in that, which is good. And the amount of inventory is still solid. We have a lot to choose from. However, it is reducing just a little bit, which is helping our supply and demand, so prices are holding strong. Okay, so I would love to hear your thoughts on these numbers and what you think they mean to you. I'm going to tell you what I think they mean to me. Okay, so first, what we're seeing with more inventory and prices kind of holding steady, what I'm seeing is sellers still need to know that this is a good time to sell. Okay. There's never a bad time to sell. I would never let market conditions keep me from making a lifestyle change. If that meant that I was ready to downsize, if I was ready to upgrade, if I wanted to change locations, I've got a huge commute that I'm just so tired of driving 45 minutes through traffic all the time. So this is not a market where I would say, you should not make that lifestyle change. Now, are there situations where maybe you should hold tight where you're at? Absolutely. But I don't think this is that. From a buyer's perspective, this is a great time to buy as well, because buyers do, in fact, don't panic, sellers. Buyers do have more leverage. They do. They can negotiate a little bit more. They don't walk into the negotiation having to basically give up everything, including their firstborn child, to get into a house, right? So buyers have a little bit more leverage and they can feel better about their purchase. What we saw a few years ago with the sort of chaotic market was that buyers were compromising on a lot, and there's a lot of buyer's remorse for people who, they don't hate their house, but they feel like maybe they overspent or bought something that maybe they wouldn't have if they'd had a little bit more to choose from. So this is a great market for buyers because you don't have to make a fast decision. There's a lot to look at and you have a little bit more leverage in your negotiation. So that's good. And sellers, that's not a bad thing for you. Okay. That means that if you're selling and trying to buy yourself, that's what we have to remember is you're always going to be on one side or the other, right? So if you're trying to sell your house and also make a move and purchase, well, yeah, we can wait for the market to become a seller's market. But then when you're the buyer, do you want to be buying in a seller's market? So on either side of whatever transition you're making, there's going to be pros and cons. So if you're looking to make an upgrade move right now or a downsize, keep in mind that, yeah, it might take a few days longer than it did a few years ago to sell your house. But while you're looking, you're going to have so much more leverage as a buyer. You're going to have the ability to potentially get a contingency offer accepted. There's lots of good things about this market and no need for any of us to panic. Things are headed in a positive direction. The media has a lot of comments, a lot of things about, the housing market overall. Please remember that those are all national media sources that are looking at markets all over the country. And there are some that are more depressed than others. There are maybe some that are moving faster than ours. But at the end of the day, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex maintains a strong market overall. And we're very blessed to be in a place actually that tends to outperform certain others. So that's your DFW market update for this month. And honestly, the biggest takeaway is that every city is moving a little differently right now. Some areas are seeing prices climb, some are seeing more inventory, and buyers are finally gaining a little more negotiating power in certain markets. Now, what this means is strategy matters more than ever. Pricing, timing, and understanding your specific area can make a huge difference whether you're buying or selling right now. I'd also love to hear from you. Are you noticing homes sitting on the market longer in your area? And what city do you think is changing the fastest in DFW right now? Should I do a deeper dive comparing places like Mansfield versus Midlothian or Burleson versus Arlington? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow along here at South of Cowtown with the Deeds for more market updates, home tours, and everything happening across DFW. And if you're thinking about buying or selling, schedule a buyer strategy session or a seller consultation with us. We would love to help you create your next chapter. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Okay, can we talk about something just for a second? Because I keep getting this question. Stephanie, why is everyone moving to Mansfield, Texas right now? Like, what's going on there? Why are families, professionals,